What's going on, YouTube? I'm back, and today I just want to talk to you guys about the new Mercy changes and the Ana changes, which I think, for a very, very long time, kind of the support meta in Overwatch has been kind of stale. And I know that we hear this all the time about Overwatch. This meta is stale, that meta is stale, this DPS is stale, Hanzo's been meta for too long, Winston's been meta for too long, D.Va's been meta for too long, Mercy, without a doubt, was meta for too long. And there was a number of reasons why Mercy being meta really annoyed me personally. Just from a competitive standpoint, I never thought that a hero with such a low skill gap should be meta in a game that's supposed to be taken seriously as an esport. Now, I'm not saying that there's no room for Mercy in the game, and I'm not saying that just because you don't have insane mechanics in an FPS game, you don't deserve to have a place in it. That's not what I'm saying. I just personally believe that having a skill gap in an FPS game that's supposed to be an esport is paramount, not only for balancing of the competitive scene, but making the game fun and rewarding to play. Nobody wants to be outplayed or feel like a hero or a character in the game is more useful than their mechanical skill is in a game, right? We want skill to triumph all, for a number of reasons. When people put time into a game, and not only one game, just the FPS genre as a whole, and this could apply to many other things, not just FPS games, but people like to feel rewarded, and a lot of people personally identify with the things that they do, especially their hobbies. Hobbies are, I believe, so important to people, and when people pour like upwards of 6,000, maybe 8,000 hours into FPS games, like I personally have, it can feel very frustrating and not very fun to play a game where someone that maybe just picked up the FPS game, or the FPS genre, I should say, is already getting more use out of a hero like Mercy. That just doesn't seem fair to me, and it doesn't really seem fun to me either. Now, Mercy was strong for a couple of reasons. Just her ability to not only self-heal passively, like no other support really can do that, as far as I can think of off the top of my head. Ana has to nade herself, Zenyatta recharges his shields, but Mercy seemed to be the only one. Also Lucio, definitely, but Lucio's kind of a unique in this sense, where she would actually heal the full health, and she could also heal at the same time as doing that, and also provide damage boost, which I always thought was kind of a weird ability, but I wouldn't change that ability at all. Just based off the fact that I like to do it, I like to use it, and I think it provides something cool. Because if your whole team is full health and you're playing Mercy, you would be doing literally nothing at all if it wasn't for that damage boost. But that's not what made her broken. What made her broken was just the fact that she could resurrect someone just on command. Like, that shouldn't be in an FPS game. There's no place for that. Every other FPS game I've ever played, when someone died, they would go back to their spawn, and then a veteran FPS player would be able to use this to their advantage, put it in the back of their mind, and it would change how they positioned and change how they played. If some of you guys played Halo or Call of Duty, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'd never really played Quake, but I'm pretty sure Quake has a spawn system that's fairly consistent. And like I said, and I don't want to just repeat myself, that is really, really important for an FPS game to have. And if you're wondering why my opinion means something, it really doesn't. It's just my opinion. But it's the opinion of a person that grew up playing FPS games. FPS games are my favorite genre. They always have been, and they always will be. And I've been really good, almost among the best of my friends, if not the best of my friends at every FPS game I've ever played. Obviously that's a small group of people, so it doesn't really mean much, but FPS games have always come natural to me, and I've always had a pretty good grasp of them. And the reason I'm bringing that up is, now that Ana is viable, it makes players that are traditional FPS enthusiasts, a lot of DPS players in Overwatch probably came from other FPS games, and they like to kill stuff, they like to shoot stuff, but more importantly, they like to get their hands dirty. They like to feel like they're making a difference with their mechanical skill. And I think this is good for Overwatch for a number of reasons. Number one, it makes the meta not stale, because Mercy's still viable and Ana is viable. Now, a lot of the times, now I don't know if you guys have ever played Overwatch at a high level, like Grandmaster, Masters level, maybe even Diamond level. A lot of DPS players, when Mercy was meta, just would refuse to play Mercy and they would play Ana instead, and that would probably lower your win rate by like a solid 10-15%, maybe 20% just off hero picks alone. That's how weak Ana used to be, and that's how strong Mercy used to be. Now, that causes a lot of problems, and it makes FPS or DPS players not want to flex at all. Then you have people that are losing games or winning games just based off of hero pools and what certain people want to play, like just off personal decisions. Now, I'm not saying if I refuse to play Mercy because I really like to aim and shoot things and use my mechanics, that doesn't make me superior at all. And in fact, you could probably make the argument for the opposite, that it makes me immature and an inferior player, to be honest. And I don't have a problem with that. I completely understand that. But the reality of the matter is, most DPS players don't want to play Mercy because they want to make plays. You know, that's why we play FPS games. That's why we play DPS, because we want to make plays and we want to feel like we're making a difference. On Mercy, you know, when you're holding left click, holding right click, you know, pressing shift, going up to someone, resurrecting them, yeah, sure, you're making an impact. There's no doubt about it, but there's nothing flashy about it. There's nothing cool about it. And if you're not having fun, why are you even playing the game? You know, fun is the most important thing in video games. And for FPS veterans, hitting shots with Ana, hitting sleeps, big antis, you know, that is fun. How many games have you played in Overwatch where you lose a game just off the sole fact that you don't have a Mercy player on your team? Now, obviously, if you've been playing recently, this isn't a problem anymore, but if you've been playing in any of the previous seasons, you know what this feels like. They have a Mercy main on their team, we don't have a Mercy main on ours, and now we're probably going to lose because people are stubborn. You can't change how people are stubborn, but as a game developer, you can make it so people's stubbornness doesn't have such a drastic impact on the gameplay experience itself. And now that Ana is viable, no matter what people are flexing to when they're forced to play a role they don't normally play, maybe you don't really play support a lot, or maybe you're a DPS player, off-tank player, and you feel support sometimes, and now you'll be able to have fun while playing support because, I mean, this is just my opinion, but Ana is a fun hero, and I don't even think it's open for debate. Who doesn't love to hit 6 sleeps, antis, you know, the projectile with the left click when you're not zoomed in, and then it's a hit scan when it is zoomed in. Like, those things are very satisfying, and they're just very, very minute things, like the projectile thing I just mentioned, but they do make the game feel really nice and rewarding. Like, when you're hitting the left click and you're not zoomed in, it's satisfying because you have to lead your shot and you hear the hit marker. It's a nice feeling. And actually being able to play a main healing role without having to just hold left click the whole time is a good feeling. It's a nice feeling once again. And not losing a game just because someone is stubborn and doesn't want to play Mercy is a nice feeling. And not seeing the same Mercy resurrection bullshit in every single match. You know, there's nothing more annoying as a DPS player when you get a sick opening pick for your team and all of a sudden the play you just made is just completely erased by a Mercy, and then you have to do it again. Now, if you're truly a great DPS player, you can just do it again. Like, you know, I'm not saying it's impossible, but, you know, it's just that's not a nice feeling, you know? And games should have nice feelings. And now that Mercy is viable, now that Ana is viable, I mean, Lucio's good, Moira's pretty good in certain comps, you know, Goat's comp. That's a whole different discussion, and I think that's a big issue in the game. Maybe I'll make a video on that more in the future, because I think the fact that Goats is actually viable shows that there's a big issue in the game. But that's a topic for another video that maybe I'll get into another time. And it's kind of weird to say this because it's not something that I've said for like I can't even remember the last time I even had this thought in my mind. But, you know, good job, Blizzard. You actually did something good for once, and you buffed Ana. And I was a little bit skeptical at first about some of the changes, I didn't think they were enough. But now, I think the game is all about viability. And in a game like Overwatch, there's such a small amount of heroes in the game. Viability is very black and white. And luckily, they've been able to make Ana viable again, which is awesome for the game. And I just want to say, good job, Blizzard. You've actually done something good for once. in terms of balancing this game. Now, I know that sometimes the game feels frustrating, but I think the game is actually headed in a really good direction at the moment. You know, there's a couple other things, there's some issues I want to talk about, but those are ideas for videos in the future. And I just want to make this video just say shout out to Blizzard for finally making Ana viable again. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.